Alright, well, it's been about a week since I've worked on this, since Thanksgiving. I've just been really busy at work and everything, and it's been really super cold, and it's kind of expensive to heat the garage. So anyways, putting the supercharger on was kind of the last place we left off. So there's 8 bolts, 4 on each side, just like the intake. And then I made this really super ugly socket back when I took this off to get down in there. Which you're not probably going to be able to see, but they're kind of having a weird little cave looking little tunnel thing. So to get them started back on, that apart there. This is kind of my setup. They're 10 millimeters, and I just had that on that socket, and then I was able to just kind of swivel this in there and get them just hand tight basically. So once I got all 8 of them hand tight, and then I bought a pack of these little things here. So then I could just stick this on my socket and then stick that down in there and tighten them with the 9/16 wrench. Now there's one on the driver's side that you can't actually get this in, because it actually, the way the intake is made, it actually goes right over the top and then swoops up. So I still had to use my homemade one on that one. Now there is a torque sequence and there's a torque specs, but I am not going to get into that because I have no way of putting a torque wrench on these. So I just tightened them in a sequence and tightened them down with the wrench to what I feel is appropriate. I'm not even going to discuss on how tight I think they are or anything, because I have no way of actually telling you a number. Or definitely don't want somebody to try to do this and strip their head, the threads out of the heads, or crack their intake manifold or warp something. So anyways, so those are all on and tight. The next thing, so this supercharger, the setup to use like the LS3 short fuel injectors. Well, like I said, a sponsor got me this supercharger, and it didn't have any injectors with it. All I had were truck injectors laying around, and I had to modify them to get them to fit. I don't have any stock injectors, but so the stock injectors have like a plastic thing on them that kind of stick down. Well, I clipped those off, and they were small enough to fit down into the supercharger, because with that plastic little cone barrier thing, it wouldn't actually fit down in the hole. So after I ripped that off, they would fit down in the hole, but then the fuel rail wouldn't fit underneath wouldn't fit on proper. But well, as I thought it wouldn't fit on proper, but it actually will fit right underneath the supercharger. I mean, you have to press down and actually push this in, but it'll fit. But I also had to notch my fuel rails because it raises everything up about a 1/4 inch. So the reason I'm telling you all this is because a set of injectors, 80-pound injectors, that I needed to run this, it would have been like $600 to $700 for a good set of injectors. And at the time, all I had were the truck injectors, so I decapped them. There's lots of videos that show you how to do that. Basically, I just took my Dremel tool and grinded right on the edge here, and the little plate just kind of flicked off of there. So I did that to all my injectors, and then they have a skinny O-ring on, I think, the top, and then the fat O-ring on the bottom. Well, I had to buy another set of just injector O-rings because you need 2 fat O-rings, one fat one on the top and a fat one on the bottom to seal proper. So these are stock. After you decap them, you can tune these, the pulses, whatever, however they do it, but they've got these set right at 80 pounds and they work fine. And these are the stock 2007 Chevy 4.8 injectors, and they keep up just fine. So, not telling you that you shouldn't go buy a real set of injectors, but in a pinch, you know, if you're trying to get some 60, 70 pound injectors and all you got are truck injectors, it can be done. So, and I haven't had any issues with these. So, anyways, I'm gonna get my injectors ready. I'm gonna get this fuel rail on next, and I'll show you the aftermath. Alright, this is the driver's side, and so they're not so tight or anything. You can't actually get in there and spin them around. But like I said, this rail pretty much is right on the bottom of this. It's not quite touching, but it's really close. But so that's installed with regular truck injectors. So I got the passenger side kind of ready. I'll try to put it in here on camera, but so I go ahead and give all my O-rings a quick petroleum jelly. You know, put a little bit of petroleum jelly. So it's really going to help out the process. So these are all kind of like beveled, countersunk sort of. So that's, I think, the other reason that this is actually possible. So it's going to be kind of tricky with one hand. Oops. It's trying to come out. Alright. There we go. Now instead of just jamming this in, I just kind of wiggle it, and I go from front to back here. Just kind of wiggle it down. And just like that. And then I give them all a quick turn. Make sure they're not bound up or jammed up. And then of course, you want to get a light down in here and really shine in there when you get ready to, you know, after you prime your engine a few times, make sure you don't have any leaks. But so that's kind of that's the supercharger setup, fuel line setup, anyways, fuel rail. So, and then I got 4 little bolts, 2 on each side I stick in there. I mean, honestly, I don't even know that once you put your coil packs on, since those fuel rails are right here, I mean, they could never blow back out anyways, but, you know, safety first. But making a little bit of noise there. Anyway, so that's the fuel rail and the supercharger attachment part. So I had a few people asking me they wanted to see more of the car. Well, there's plenty of videos of that, but as soon as I get a little bit more progress done on getting the engine back together, I'll try to do a walkthrough into lights, since I've actually got lights now and you can actually see the car. So I'll try to get some sort of walk around of the video of the car and put it on video for everybody. So, but anyways, so thanks for watching. Thought I'd just show a little bit about the power steering pulley. So the factory one doesn't quite touch, but it's real close. I mean, I've got, you know, at least a finger between all this stuff here, so. And there's the part number, I guess, for that pulley. It is a Dorman. It was actually really cheap. I think it was like 18 bucks. But it is plastic, but I've never had a problem with it ever since I put a little cooler on there. It did squeal quite a bit until I did that. It'd get hot and start groaning, but never had any other issues with it. And then the steam vent things on the front, it's really hard to do them if you put the supercharger on and you try to do this stuff. So alright, well, I finally picked up a tripod to maybe make a little bit better still videos of what's going on. Been pretty busy at work, so I haven't had much time to mess with this. And this last weekend I was up in Phillipsburg dinking around at my parents' house, so I should be getting some parts in tomorrow for this guy here, and I'll actually do some talking about that, because quite a bit of little piddle stuff you got to do to go from the LS1 8-pin drive-by wire setup to try to go to a 6-pin, because all the 90 millimeter, 102 millimeters are all 6-pin drive-by wire setups. And I could go throttle body, but then, or throttle cable, but then that would take some building and some messing with, and then I'd have to get the computer reprogrammed, yada yada yada. So I justify it as being cheaper to spend the 350 bucks or so on the wire adapter and the throttle body, 102 millimeter throttle body, than to mess with trying to make throttle cables and taking in, it's like 200 bucks to get that tuned, retuned, and just a nightmare just to start the car and run it, you know. But anyways, I think the last place we were at, I might have showed you some stuff about the power steering pump. I got the water pump put on since then. The superchargers tightened down. I didn't go over any torque specs because I don't want to be responsible for somebody breaking or warping their supercharger. So if you're doing this, I'm sure you're smart enough to figure it out if you're going to go that far as to putting a supercharger on. Messed with fuel rails and kind of was messing with some fuel lines here, kind of getting them prepped up. I mean, it looks like there's a ton of room back there, but unfortunately after I put all the cooling lines and the rest of the wiring, all that space disappears real fast. So I thought today I would just kind of do some more working, some more stuff. I'm trying to avoid putting the wiring in, but probably going to start on the wiring. I'm going to get rid of the vacuum windshield wiper mechanism because it never really worked anyways. I mean, the motor never put out any vacuum to actually run that. So I'll probably delete that and put a plate on there or something. I mean, I don't drive this car in the rain, and you know, if I do, we've used Rain-X in the past. I mean, trust me, those windshield wipers, you'd rather just have Rain-X and hope you're going fast enough for the water to come off the windshield before those things would ever even try to do anything. So anyways, so I'm going to think about what I'm going to do here. Oh, and I bolted up the driver's side headers, completely done too, so I'll probably clean up some of the accessory drive here and, you know, do a few other little things. So I'll bring you back here in a minute. So I actually kind of had to build this thing. It's the PVC setup for the valve cover on the driver's side. Now the supercharger sends you this part that'll kind of work, but not really. So it might work for different applications, but it wouldn't work for this. So I end up cutting the one off of the factory engine that goes up and around the top of the intake, and then I used a piece of fuel line, and then I cut this thing off, and I don't remember what the deal was, but I had to cut it off, and this goes to the supercharger. So anyways, I took both of them and just cut them, spliced them together to make this one right here. So I thought I'd just show that real quick. Alright, so these are the fuel rail, little bolts that hold the fuel rail in. And as I already said, I had to notch my fuel rail to use the truck injectors. So try to get these. I don't put any Loctite on these. I'm sure there's some sort of little torque spec for them, but I'm not too worried about them. The other one you're probably not going to be able to see. We'll see. I gotta figure out where it's at. Oh yeah. She's hiding. Basically down in here. So I'm gonna get the fuel rail put on, and then after the fuel rail, I'll start putting on all the coil packs and stuff on this valve cover. And the reason why I want to do that is to put the cooling lines on the driver's side of the supercharger, because they get a little bit hard to do when you got a bunch of stuff already in the way. Must be closed. Well, anyways, I'll get that on and we'll go from there. Alright, this is where things start getting really compact here in the supercharger world. So, you got your coolant line here, your vacuum line, your booster line, coil packs. I haven't even done the injector wires yet. You got your booster, your boost tube, your boost indicator, and then this little guy right here, that hooks up to the solenoid on the supercharger here. And before I put this bracket on that holds the alternator, you know, you want to get all your vacuum lines put on. Put a little heat shrink on the end of that hose clamp there. I'm still not 100% sure if that's going to clear to figure it out. But these lines are a real pain in the butt to get on. So that's the other reason I didn't want to put the bracket on yet. And I'm probably going to actually cut these and redo the cooling line because, you know, these cooling lines were made to go on a specific year Chevy. So they're molded for that. I did get them to work in this, but you know, I had to do a bunch of this kind of stuff here, zip tying chunks of hose over it so it doesn't rupture. But so this one way back here, I've got it capped off, which, you know, hopefully it's not leaking or anything. Probably should replace that, but anyways, that goes to the evap solenoid if you have one. I don't, so I just put a cap on it. But so that's where I'm at right now. Coil pack's on. Most all the lines are ran that are in the way. So I'm gonna put the alternator bracket on next, and then run the tube that goes to the supercharger. Alright, well, with the crazy alternator relocating bracket, you know, and that's part of the reason I have to have a special hood for it. It's because the alternator sticks up that high. But, you know, it doesn't matter, so does this thing. This thing sticks up just as high on this side. But, that hose for that supercharger runs right there. It's never hit somehow, so it's fine. It actually goes through a hole on the bracket there, fits in there, and then it's actually notched for your booster vacuum hose. So yeah, it starts getting busy real fast under here. I mean, I haven't even added the wiring yet to the car. And unfortunately, to start doing the passenger side, I'll have to quit procrastinating and actually start working on the wiring next. Or, you know, it's going to be a real nightmare. So, but it's coming along. I'm going to try to go to the hardware store or something and see what I can find for some sort of either metal stainless steel tubing, or I might get some like PEX plumbing fittings and get some new heater hose line and reroute my lines to make them a little better, just so they're a little bit more tidy and they don't look so horrible. And I should get parts for that tomorrow. We can go over how the throttle body stuff should actually work, and yeah, hopefully this thing's going to be a real beast. It's funny, I did all that engine painting and you can barely see any orange. You can see some right in there. You can see a little here, but that's all going to get covered. You're not ever going to see anything past here soon. All the radiator, fan shroud, but that's alright. I mean, I guess I could have just put in a greasy engine and been happy with it, but you gotta have some sort of pride in your work, I guess. So, alright, well, I think that's gonna actually finish this video this time. So, thanks for watching. We'll get another video out soon.